All right, let's start our little interview. We have Patrik Hofbauer here, who's from Sweden, and he's Telia's president.
Correct.
So thank you very much for having this interview, and I'm very, very excited that you are here. So
thank you for having me here. I'm very happy for that.
Super. My first question about leadership today is that you made this seatbelt example where we started off the life without wearing the seatbelt, and now after long years after inventing it, even it took like I think a decade at least to start using somewhere. And in Estonia, I think it was like 20 years ago when that really boomed. Before that nobody actually cared, and it's like 40 or 50 years later. Long time. My question is about management today, and if you talk about management, what is the most critical component? What's changed in the management? You have a lot of experience. What do you see? What's different 20 years ago compared to today?
It's a very broad question. There are many aspects of this, but let's start with the seatbelt moment and the 3-point seatbelts that Volvo developed in the 1950s. It took almost 20-30 years before people started using it. And it was not that because they logically could understand why they should use the three set belt points there. It was actually more about changing the behaviors. And at that time, the development was not as fast as it is today. So I think one of the challenges we have as leaders today is that technology and everything is going so fast today. How can we make sure that the people in our organization of joining us, following us in the development and the change that we see, and then we can onboard everyone. So let's take this security aspect as an example. How do we make sure that every new organizations are aware of the security risks that we are facing today, given the speed of development also from the hackers and that we see? So I think that is a question that is more complicated, and one of the main tasks for me as a leader. And then secondly, I would say what also changed is that we tend to do many more activities in parallel today than we did in the past. When I'm talking in the past now, maybe 10, 20, 30 years ago, nowadays we are doing too many things in parallel. So my most important role as a senior leader in the company is almost like taking away things from our table and saying that, let's stop focus, let's stop that kind of activity, do less things and do they really good. So that is also a second part of it. And the third part, so one is the culture part, making sure that everyone is onboarded. Second one is actually to make sure that we do less activities, do not have the pressure on the organization. And I would say thirdly is about, security in average, in general. Again, to make the awareness much higher in the organization. That is that we didn't see for 10-20 years ago in the same way that we do today.
But do you feel that today's leader need to be more specialist in every different aspect than 20 years ago? I mean, you really need to understand the cybersecurity before you focus on it, or can you outsource it, or is it even how does it impact the company if you don't know about cybersecurity by meaning that you should do it but you don't know anything about it, and it's not possible? Your business is to grow business, right?
Yes. Of course, it's everything about growing and maintaining business. So before we maybe started business, now it's more about maintaining business, make sure that it's secured and reliable, because otherwise the impact will be so big. So I think my awareness as a CEO is more to understand what are the biggest risks and opportunities and focus on those. And I don't need to be the specialist. I have so many good people in the organization, but of course need to be aware where do we put our priority, and then listening in much more on our very good people, what they say, how they communicate, and understand, okay, what are the important areas that we need to focus on, and also listening into where do we need to strengthen us as a group or as a company.
But if you think about the shareholder and his main business is to grow money, and then at the same time cybersecurity is such a big hole where you can put the money in and you even don't see anything, and then how do you sell this cybersecurity to the shareholder?
It's very easy, because every investor are looking for resilient and strong companies that could gain a sustainable growth in the longer run. So if you look at that comment, it's very easy to understand that you need to make sure that you have a resilient operation. That's part of it. And I think we have been investing in technology and processes for many years. I think most of the companies. But this is much more about people, how we include people internally, so they also understand the importance of security. And that is not a money or cost aspect. It's more of the culture in the company. So I think every investor I talk to is, of course, they're looking into growth and profitability and how we make sure that we have a sustainable company.
So meaning that you have business tomorrow as well?
Yeah, yes, that's pretty important for an investor. Otherwise you don't invest. You invest in other companies instead that are more resilient and more future-proofed.
What do you think, if you talk about cybersecurity, what are the biggest things what we should focus right now? What is the trends what you see from that position you have?
Yeah, there are many aspects of it, but I think the most important aspect is to make sure that everyone in your organization are aware of the threats and how we can protect ourselves internally. I think that is the key question for a leader today.
So if you talk about company values, we should have something from the cybersecurity as well.
Yeah, we should at least, because 98% of the risks that we have is actually connected to social engineering, i.e. to people, that the risk that we click on the wrong link, etc., we get these attacks coming into us. So I think that is an area that we need to be much more aware of and help people to do right.
So understanding that the people in the company actually even understand the impact of them. I think that most company people don't understand that what kind of role I actually have in the cybersecurity. I'm just a secretary. I'm just doing some emails and I'm following your calendar. But at the same time, I'm quite sure that I don't even understand what is my role in there.
Yes, correct. And that is, we have to look into the weakest link of a company, and that is they are the people. And it's not that we are not aware of it, because we see that where are the cyber threats coming from, and of course we need to talk it as a natural part of our business, and if something happens, talk about it, learn from it, and don't try to hide it in the company. I think this is a very important question, and I think people need to feel safe and secure that, okay, if I do something wrong, I immediately run and tell that to my IT department or my cybersecurity department, so make sure that I have probably done something wrong here, so we can detect it very quickly.
Yeah, I think that's understanding that I even acknowledge that I made something wrong. I think usually people are ashamed that I clicked the wrong link.
Yes, so they are a bit ashamed, but also they are a bit, of course, afraid to tell it because they are afraid of the consequences. And the consequences should rather be that, okay, what can we learn from this? How do we make sure that we don't do it again? And how do we then build a more robust company? So I think the shameless and blameless is an important part.
And talking about this, making something where we really start thinking that this is really impacting, understanding and acknowledging it. What do you think, do company leaders today even acknowledge what kind of role they play in economy? I mean, this, if I'm taking some of the example where Nicole made that if you run, for example, this accounting company and you're being hacked, the whole economy will collapse because you couldn't exchange the bills, money don't move, and then country is basically down. So do you think that company leaders even understand the impact of their business in the global picture? Usually people think that, okay, if I mess up, it's my problem, but it may not be, right?
No, correct. Yes. So it's not it's a joint effort, and that is the reason why it's so important that we share knowledge between industry, between companies. Because I will give an example. We had a situation in Sweden 2 years ago, where basically you cannot buy groceries anymore in the store. The reason why, there was a component in the cashing machines in the company that came from the US. This US company was hacked and blocked, so they could not provide the services anymore. So we had to close more than 200 stores in Sweden because of that.
And that's a big impact. I mean,
it's a big impact. It's a severe impact of this company, for this company. So I think we need to be aware that we are not by ourselves, by own. We need to protect and create a culture in the company that everyone is aware of the risks and and understand, okay, how can I contribute to this? And then we need to discuss with our partners, how do we make sure? And we have those discussions with partners today when it comes to sustainability as another example. So we need to have that around security as well. How do we make sure that we are secured as a chain? And if something happens, how do we then act and how do we help each other?
Yeah, there's many more examples. Some time ago there was no airplanes on the air because systems crashed.
Yes, correct. Yes. So we are very vulnerable in that perspective.
I think that companies are still learning the impact of the cyber technology overall. So far, everybody see that cyber technology will help our world to be better place, more economical and etc. But same time, we take more risks what we don't even know, right? We don't. If you haven't drive this car like 20 years, you don't even know what kind of tricks it may have.
Mm-hmm. And then another topic we're talking about the leadership challenges. For maybe 15-20 years ago, this is a long time now, we could say that here we are going this direction, in 5 years we should be here. This is much more complicated today, because it's so more complicated to run a business today. You need to be a bit more short-sighted and see, okay, where are we today, where will we be tomorrow? And tomorrow is not 5 years ahead of us, maybe that is a year or 2 years ahead of us. And try to explain that we need to be much more open-minded and see where do we turn. Do we pivot the organization? Are we going left or go we right? Okay, now we are going right. Then you need to pivot again and see, okay, what's happening around us. So I think this complexity that we see, that everything is evolving so fast, like technology. Let's take AI as a good example. Everyone is now talking about AI, but how many have really implemented AI in a good way? Very few. But no doubt that this technology has an amazing opportunity. But we need to learn by use cases, step by step, learn this technology and see how we can use this, and that this is giving benefit for us and our customers.
And really, definitely not hurting us, like bringing another security problems in house.
No, correct, yes, correct, yes.
But if you think about CEO position, I mean, you couldn't be expert on everything, but at the same time, you being asked, what do you do? What is our strategy? How do you learn those things? How do you answer that kind of question? You couldn't be a specialist in everything, right?
No, and you know what? My most important role as a CEO then is to make sure that I have people around me that are much better than I am in every aspect. So for example, if I have a CTO, which I have, I mean, the CTO is of course much more clever and knows his business much better than I do. And then, so make sure that you have the good people around you and then listen to them. And listen to them and understand, okay, what we should do. And then put the puzzle together so you get the full picture. I think that is the role of a CEO today, much more than, at least in our company. And of course, I need to understand technology since we are a technology-driven company. I need to be curious, I need to learn everyday new things. And that is what I'm trying to do.
But how do you manage the CTO? I mean, he also wants to have like one-on-ones where you can really challenge him and really point him to the right direction. Because I mean, CTO can have like so many different paths where he should put his attention. So how do you know how to challenge him?
Yeah, but the CTO is not by themselves either, The CTO, that person has also good people around the CTO, so they can actually discuss and discover, okay, where to go. Then of course we have a discussion internally with a couple of people around the table, not only one, because we need to have a diverse team so we get different aspects when we discuss. Of course, we then discuss what kind of directions are we going, how are we heading, So I seldom have a discussion with my CTO and say, are we running on the right track at the moment? It's much more about what complex situations do we have, what do we need to solve, are there any issues that we need to bring to the table, and how is that impacting our company? And then you get the full picture because you have a diverse team around you that have different views, different angles, and that is really important.
But how do you validate that your company is on the right track? Even, okay, you have a bunch of specialists, but at the same time things happening in the world and you still know the things what you know, but how do you manage things what you don't know? Do you have some kind of or suggestions for the companies who don't have I think that many companies don't even have the CTOs. How can they make sure that they still have the problem solved, or or even aware of the risks?
So if you don't have the competence internally, you should actually listen and talk to partners, because there are many companies that are specialists in these kind of areas. We are also using partners to get a better knowledge, better understanding of what's happening around us, because we cannot be best at everything. That's
so even
impossible.
big Telia has external partners?
Of course we have, and that is an important part, because we have these kind of specialists that in a certain area that are very, very skilled in a very tiny area, but super important for us for the whole picture. Of course we then partner up and see how to solve this, because many questions are very complex and we cannot solve them by ourselves. We need to listen to partners and work together with them to solve it. So if I were a CEO and I don't have a CTO, it depends of course what kind of business you run. But let's say that you are dependent on technology, but you don't have the competence, then I would actually argue to find the competence to hire it internally, or rely on partners and have them very close to yourself.
How secure do you feel if you think about as a person on the economy where we are living today? How secure do you feel? How well our economy is today? How well the companies are managed? How well the government is managed? How well this digital world where we are in is working?
So it depends very much. First of all, it's a very broad question. But let's talk about digitalization. So I think we in the Nordic and Baltics, we are very digital today. We are using most of the services, using on the phone. We are doing banking services, insurance services, etc. on the phone. You even buy stuff over your mobile phone today, and this is something which we know that we are very well developed. So we have robust.
How often do you feel that maybe this? What happens if this phone doesn't work tomorrow? I don't even have bank cards in my pocket anymore. I just have a phone.
Simplify it. Why do I love my job? Think about it like this. We are providing really good connectivity services to all our customers, and let's say that you cut the cord and you don't have connectivity anymore. Basically the country collapse.
Exactly.
And I cannot do my services anymore. And this is what gives me a lot of energy every day to go to work. With that responsibility, but also opportunities, it's quite amazing. So when we talk to customers today, independent on small or big, or if it's the public customers, etc., the connectivity part is more relevant than ever. Make sure that we have robust, resilient networks, so we always are connected, because we need always to be connected.
Yeah, I trust you so much that I just. If you don't work, I don't work.
No, but it is because we are doing all the services today via mobile phone. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we did it over a computer, but now we use the mobile phone, and we have a whole life always in our pocket. So we can actually live and you order food, you do your bank services, so you're pretty dependent on the connectivity and the mobile that you have.
I think that it's actually so smoothly going over that we actually forget how to write with the pencil anymore.
We don't even do that anymore,
Exactly.
And today we are signing contract and other things, on digitally, so we don't even use a pencil anymore.
Patrik, tell me, how do you inspire yourself? What you can recommend for the people who are listening us? How can they be so much inspired like you? What do you read? What do you listen? What do you do for inspiration?
Yeah, so start with myself. I'm very curious as a person, so I'm always trying to learn. So every morning when I go to the office, I pass my mirror and ask myself, are you standing still or are you moving? I'm using that every morning, and I just see that what could I learn, or what did I learn yesterday, and what do I need to learn today. For example, we had many software developments in my previous job. So I thought and understand, okay, what are they doing on a day, when they're doing software development? So coding, basically. So I took a lesson in coding to better understand what they're doing, because I wanted to have a proper discussion with them on how we develop our code. So these are examples of how you can actually self-lead you can lead yourself by actually making sure and taking responsibility for your own development.
You have a roadmap for yourself, like these things I need to do to make sure that I'm developing myself as a person.
I don't have a roadmap, unfortunately. It's more happens on a daily basis. So for example, I see something I get curious about and I want to learn more about. And there is so much you can learn on internet today, on self-education basically. So then otherwise I'm listening to a really good podcast called In Good Company with Nicolai Tangen. Nicolai Tangen is the CEO of the Norwegian pension fund, one of the biggest investors in the world. Basically, they own 1% on every company that are listed, because they have so much oil money in Norway. So I'm listening a lot to him, and he is interviewing different business leaders. And that gives me a broader perspective of what challenges the different industries has, and how we can actually understand that better in our world, so we can serve our customers better. So that's really good to get a broader perspective. That is one example.
But what do you read? Is there any books in your world anymore, or do you have time for books?
Not that much as I would have, so it's a limited time now on books.
So podcasts have taken over this?
It has almost, because I must say that. But I love to read books again, so I will restart, because I think it's good for your brain and your body to just read.
Thank you very much, Patrik. It was a very interesting interview, and thank you everybody for listening us. I wish you a pleasant day and see you soon again.
Thank you very much. Thank you.